This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we turn now to look at attacks on the press here at home and abroad, the White House is threatening to once again revoke the press pass for CNN's Jim Acosta, just days after CNN won a temporary restraining order. White House officials have told Acosta he'll be suspended again once the two-week restraining order expires. Acosta was initially stripped of his press pass after questioning Trump during a live televised press conference. On Sunday, Trump defended his attacks on the media during an interview on Fox News with Chris Wallace.
In 2017, last year, you tweeted this, and I want to quote it accurately: "The fake news media is not my enemy, it is the enemy of the American people."
It's true, 100%.
No president has liked his press coverage. John Kennedy, in your Oval Office, canceled the subscription to the New York Herald Tribune. Nobody called it the enemy of the American people.
Chris, I'm calling the fake news is the enemy. It's fake. It's phony.
But a lot of times, sir, it's just news you don't like.
No, it's not. No. I don't mind getting bad news if I'm wrong.
But, sir, leaders in authoritarian countries like Russia, China, Venezuela now repress the media using your words.
I can't talk for other people. I can only talk for me. I will tell you.
But you're seen around the world as a beacon for
Chris,
repression, not for...
I'm not talking about you, but you sometimes maybe, but I'm not talking about you. The news about me is largely phony. It's false.
While President Trump continues to attack the media, we turn now to look at another world leader doing the same, cracking down on the press. In the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte is attempting to shut down the leading independent Filipino news site, The Rappler, which has published groundbreaking work on Duterte's deadly war on drugs, which has killed more than 12,000 people. Duterte has repeatedly described the site as a fake news outlet.
You are a fake news outlet, and I am not surprised that your articles are also fake.
Philippines President Duterte describing Rappler as a fake news outlet, saying its articles are also fake. Last week, the Filipino government indicted Maria Ressa, the founder of Rappler, for tax evasion in what's widely seen as the government's latest attempt to shut down the website. In January, the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission also revoked Rappler's license to operate on charges the website's foreign-owned, even though the website is owned by Filipinos. The government then banned the news website from the presidential palace, claiming Duterte had lost trust in the publication and characterized its coverage as fake news. Duterte has also called reporters who ask him tough questions spies and warned that, quote, "just because you're a journalist, you're not exempted from assassination." While the Filipino government has attempted to silence Maria Ressa, her journalism has been praised around the world. Last week, she received the 2018 Knight International Journalism Award.
Our problems are fast becoming your problems. Boundaries around the world have collapsed, and we can begin to see a kind of global playbook. When President Trump banned Jim Acosta last night, he followed President Duterte's actions against our reporter, Pia Ranada. And me, I haven't reported, but I'm banned from the palace for early this year. Of course, when Trump called CNN and the New York Times fake news a week later, you saw the video, Duterte called Rappler fake news. Power corrupts, it coerces, and co-ops.
On Tuesday, the Committee to Protect Journalists will honor Maria Ressa with its 2018 Gwen Ifill Press Freedom Award here in New York. Maria Ressa joins us for the rest of the hour here in our New York studio. Prior to launching Rappler in 2011, Maria Ressa worked at CNN and ABS-CBN. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thanks for having me.
I met you when we were both covering East Timor. You worked for CNN for close to 2 decades.
Yes.
Congratulations on your work, and How are you operating right now in the Philippines? You've also expanded to Indonesia with these relentless attacks by the president of the Philippines, a close ally of President Trump.
I always say we hold the line, right? These are all political attacks against us. They haven't shut us down. We continue operating, but we are fighting many cases, 6 or 7 different investigations and legal cases. And these cases it's like a war of attrition, right? So our legal fees have gone up, money that I would have wanted to use to expand Rappler, particularly in this age of, looking for new business models, looking for new technology solutions. Well, all of that is going to legal fees. So maybe that's the only place where our government has succeeded. But we continue to do investigative work, and we continue to expose impunity that is happening at all levels.
So you just learned that the Philippines government plans to indict you.
Yes, it was actually within 12 hours of getting the Knight International Journalism Award, the Department of Justice gave a press release, just a press release, no other document saying that they would indict me, Rappler, and our accountant. And what that means is I could, just by being a journalist, face up to 10 years in prison. It is also ludicrous. I mean, I've run out of adjectives for the word ludicrous, ridiculous, because the basis of this charge is a reclassification of Rappler from a news group to a dealer in securities. So they're saying...
A dealer in securities?
They're saying we owe them taxes because we are a dealer in securities. So we evaded taxes because we're now a stock brokerage firm. We're not, obviously, right? So, again, if the government pushes through with this, our lawyer, Francis Lim, who's the former president of the Philippine Stock Exchange, has already said there is no legal basis. He's also stated that it would have impact on the markets because we're not the only company that issued this financial instrument. It's called the Philippine Depository Receipt. The 2 largest television stations have it. The 2 telecommunications firms have it. So we'll see. I guess we operate with having a Damocles sword hanging over our heads. And I think that's the intent of the government, to make us careful, to make us pull back, to intimidate us to silence. And I think, President Trump and President Duterte have many qualities in common. The bullying aspect of it, the attacking when they don't like when a mirror is being held up to their faces. Our response is not to take it personally and to continue doing the reports.
And his attack on journalists as spies, saying just because you are a journalist, you are not exempted from assassination?
Yeah. I like to think it's hyperbole, but, in October 2015, before President Duterte decided to run for office, he admitted he killed people in an interview I did with him. John Oliver actually used that clip because it's rare that you will have somebody on camera admit they've killed 3 people. This is part of his, I'm going to use the word charm in both positive and negative ways. The fact that he says things like Trump that you don't expect to come from a leader, a politician. And that gave permission to others to act in the same way. So we've seen an increase, for example, in sexist statements, in misogynistic statements. On social media. So the impunity with government goes hand in hand with impunity on social media, on Facebook. And I've been very vocal about this because in the Philippines, Facebook is our internet. 97% of Filipinos on the internet are on Facebook. And so free basics, everyone can get it on their cell phone, but when you click through to read the news article, you have to pay, so people don't click through. So this whole propaganda machine, which we exposed as early as August of 2016, is very effective. And the impunity and the attacks against women, the misogynistic attacks against women, are a prelude to attacks against any perceived critics of the administration.
Facebook. I want to go to that issue of how Duterte learned to work Facebook and what happened in the lead up to the election. And talk to us about the Duterte die-hard supporters known as DDS, which happens to be the same initials as Duterte's infamous Davao death squad, which has been thought to have killed hundreds of people.
Well, that's a perfect example of how you can use social media to turn the world upside down. Davao Death Squad, instead of actually denying it like a normal politician would, right? Instead of saying, oh no, I didn't do that, they owned it, Davao Death Squad, and then pivoted it. So now it is, instead of a negative of the Davao Death Squad killings, it becomes Duterte diehard supporters. It's pivoted. That's exactly what's happened with the attacks on traditional media on Facebook beginning in January this year. There was a survey, Pew Global Attitude Survey said that for people in the real world, they actually trust, 86% trust traditional media. But for the survey on social media, and this is the Edelman Trust Survey, for those on social media, 83% distrust traditional media. How are they able to do that? It's precisely because of the information warfare on Facebook that's happened.
Let me go to right before Duterte was elected. He admitted he was linked, as you said, to the death squad in Davao in the Philippines, speaking on a local TV show in a mix of English and Visayan.
Me, they are saying I'm part of a death squad.
So how do you react to that?
True. That's true. You know, when I become president, I warn you, I don't covet the position. But if I become president, the 1,000 will become 50,000. I will kill all of you who make the lives of Filipinos miserable. I will really kill you. I won because of the breakdown in law and order.
Kill all of you. He was the mayor of Davao for many, many years.
On and off since 1988. Yeah, this is the rhetoric of the president.
And so now explain DDS, his die-hard supporters, and what happened in the lead-up to the election and how he worked with Facebook.
So Facebook, let me start with Facebook and Rappler are partners. We know the best and the worst of what can happen. In 2012, we used social media for social good. We helped Filipinos get on Facebook, so it's partly our fault, I suppose, along with Facebook. But in 2016, when the anger was used in the campaign, right? So there was a campaign machinery that helped Duterte win. And then after he won in July of 2016, when the drug war began, that was when it was weaponized, and weaponized using...
And before the election, Facebook employees came to the Philippines to work with the candidates on how they can use Facebook.
Absolutely. And this is, I think, something Facebook did not understand, didn't realize the connection between what they were doing in the virtual world and the real world. But they offered their services to any political campaign. And just like in the United States, Trump took it up. Duterte took it up, right? Another thing that we have in common, Cambridge Analytica. The most compromised accounts are here in the United States. The country with the second most compromised accounts are the Philippines. I always used to say that, you know, the Philippines is a cautionary tale for the United States. We are the canary in the coal mine. As early
and explain what you mean by the compromised accounts.
Well, Cambridge Analytica had access to these accounts. They were able to get the private data of these accounts and manipulate them. I mean, that's if you look at what they were able to do, right?
That Steve Bannon was involved with.
Yes, of course. Sorry. So I think for me, the most interesting part of this is that I always think what you're looking at now in the United States, old hat to us in the Philippines. The president of Cambridge Analytica came to the Philippines and had a photo with the social media campaign manager of Duterte in 2015. This is global. I think what we're seeing, the disinformation that is using hate to incite violence, that is using the algorithms that are actually dividing us, that is tearing down our democracies. And, you know, as early as, so we had all of this data that we had pulled down because we were Facebook partners. And in August of 2016, I gave that to Facebook. And I said, this is really alarming. You have to do something about this. We're going to do a story. Didn't get any response back. At the end of that meeting, as a joke, I said, you know, you have elections in the United States. Trump could win. And we all laughed. 2 of the 3 people I was talking with in Singapore are no longer with Facebook. But in November, after Trump won, they asked me for the data again. I think it's very different now. You know, obviously they're on the hot spot and they're taking some action. Still, too little, too late. But hopefully now that they know it, we're pushing very hard for them to do more.
So once Duterte takes the presidency in 2016, you say he weaponized Facebook. How?
Yeah, absolutely. This is taking the campaign machinery and then using hate. Right? That is, they pounded on the fracture lines of society. For us, it is the gap between the rich and the poor, the gap between the capital, Imperial Manila, and the countryside. And they incited hatred. The first targets of attacks were anyone who questioned the killings in the drug war. The second targets were journalists. The third were perceived critics of the government. And, you know, it happened so quickly that we did not understand that we were being manipulated. When we came out with our series in October of 2016, we came out with a 3-part series, Propaganda War, Weaponizing the Internet. We became the target of attack. And that was when I realized, I didn't even realize, even while we were doing the story, how horrific it could get. Because after we came out with that 3-part series, we were bombarded. And bombarded, I mean, you know, at the beginning I was still trying to respond to people. Forget it, they weren't responding back. They just meant to pound me into silence. And so at one point, I just started counting how many hate messages I was getting.
You were making a database.
90 hate messages per hour. And it lasted exactly a month, meaning like a payroll a month. And this continues. And that is meant to cripple belief, truth, right?
One of these messages was, I want Maria Ressa to be raped repeatedly to death.
Yes, that's actually tame compared to some of the other ones. I think this is where they all come together. When people see this, it impacts values. And the target, which is this a middle class that really doesn't know, it's called astroturfing, right? They don't know what they really think. And so when they think that an overwhelming number believes in President Duterte, believes in President Trump, then they follow and they jump. It's a bandwagon effect. I think the problem for us is when you take this exponential lies on social media, and then you take the presidential megaphone, the vast powers of government, and you combine them, a lie told 1,000,000 times is the truth. And then when it is reinforced by the vast powers of government, we have no defense. You can keep doing the stories, but the question there is, will the community believe you?
And you believe that possibly these were also bots? There were so many attacks in general.
I think in the Philippines, they used bots as alerts, and labor is so cheap that it's all largely fake accounts. I mean, even if you look at the Facebook disclosure last year, there's a little footnote that says the Philippines has a higher than average number of fake accounts.
One of the messages, one of the more aggressive messages, was a fake endorsement by Pope Francis with the words, "Even the Pope admires Duterte," beneath the Pope's image. The Catholic Bishops' Conference in the Philippines posted a statement, "May we inform the public that this statement from the Pope is not true. We beg everyone to stop spreading this," but it just became a kind of truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the reason that the support, well, President Duterte has high popularity ratings, at one point up to 88%. And part of that is because of this groundswell of social media, right? And people can't tell the difference between fact and fiction. That's the other casualty. What is truth? If you have crippled all of the truth tellers, then who will people believe?
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. We continue our discussion with Maria Ressa, the founder, CEO, executive director of Rappler, an acclaimed Philippine news website that's been repeatedly attacked by the Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte. Last week, the Filipino government indicted Maria Ressa, at least announced their intention to indict her for tax evasion, what's widely seen as the government's latest attempt to shut down the website. Rappler has helped to expose his deadly war on drugs. I'd like to turn to a clip from Rappler's Impunity series, which documents the drug war in the Philippines and its impacts. The video is titled Day of the Dead. Cecilia Descargar, whose daughter Jennifer was killed in October 2016.
At 6 this evening, she said, "Mother, mother, can I have 50 pesos?" I asked her why, and she said she was just going to eat. When I went upstairs to take a bath, one of the neighbors came. She said, "Celia, your daughter is dead." What? I told her she should surrender. She said, "I'm not a dealer. I just use because of my friends." She said, "I'm going to stop soon now that Duterte is in power."
Video again titled Day of the Dead, just a clip of your series. Maria, talk about what you're doing in the Philippines and your coverage of the war on drugs and how many people have been killed since Duterte took power as president.
So the total number we will never know for sure, because that is the first casualty in our war for truth, right? Right now, the Philippine police claim that they have shot or killed 5,000 people. I mean, just for reference, in 9 years of martial law under Ferdinand Marcos, there were 3,200 people killed, right? So 5,000 people killed since July of 2016. But if you go by, in January, they carved out a number of people, a larger number of people, saying they were not drug deaths, they were deaths under investigation. If you carve that out, you're talking about an additional 20,000 people killed. So is it 12,000? Is it 5,000, 12,000, which is what human rights groups say, to 20,000, which is what other human rights groups say, or 30,000? The problem is, it doesn't matter what the number is. One should be enough, right? One, and I think what human rights groups have pointed out is the people who are being killed are the people who are the poorest, the people who cannot defend themselves. And these are extrajudicial killings. They don't have a day in court. What if they're wrong? What if these are just witch hunting lists, which, again, we've done a whole impunity series from the eyes of the victims, their families, and most recently we finished a 7-part series from the killers' perspectives. And the killers we interviewed, this took 6 months to do. The killers admit that they were paid by the police to kill. Impunity.
Maria, in the last minutes we have left, it's a group of women reporters who founded Rappler. Is that right?
And Rappler is about 63% women. We keep looking for men.
What gives you the strength and the courage to continue as after you receive these awards, you're headed back to the Philippines?
I think our line is we hold the line. Hashtag hold the line. The thing that's great about Rappler is that the founders are older. I'm in my 50s, and we have experience. We've lived through many different things. Our reporters are in their 20s, and they have this fresh, idealistic energy. The sense of mission in Rappler has never been higher. The reason why they're going there day after day is because now more than ever, the mission of journalism is necessary, and it's this combination, trying to figure out what the future of journalism will look like. I'm proud and I love being part of Rappler because of that. Takes what we've learned over the years.
Where did you get the name?
Rappler is, we made it up, rap from the 80s, let's talk, plus ripple to make waves. We wanted to build communities of action because in our country, institutions are they're endemic corruption and the institutions are weak. So what we wanted to do was stop waiting for government and help build communities bottom up using technology. That dream is still there. We succeeded at it for up until 2016.
And how do you protect yourself?
Experience from the past helps, right? But now what we've done is the first new threat is actually the psychological threat, the attacks against our reporters, the people on the front line on social media. You have to deal with that, and it's something that is completely new. So we send our social media team, our reporters on the front lines, to counseling. But then the counselors also need to learn how to do that. So we help bring in the DART Center to help the trainers, right?
We're going to have to leave it there, but we're going to continue our discussion and post it online at democracynow.org. Maria Ressa, founder, CEO, executive editor of Rappler, leading independent news website in the Philippines. I'm Amy Goodman.